How about it for Pulitzer Prize winner Michael Hiltzik? Yeah. Michael Hiltzik, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on your body of
Thank you.
work, which has been recognized by the Pulitzer Committee, among others. And you write daily for the LA Times on business and economics. What's your take on the tariffs? This is day one.
Well, look, there are any number of sycophants who talk up about Trump's great policymaking abilities. I haven't heard anybody defend these tariffs. Trump can't explain why he's doing this with any cogency at all. What Justin Trudeau just said on your show, or said the other day, is absolutely true. These are only going to be costs on American consumers. We saw this the last time around when Trump placed tariffs on China. The cost of anything that involved raw materials or parts from China went up. We've got the entire auto industry up in arms. They're saying, look, there are going to be layoffs by the thousands of auto workers because we are not going to be able to build cars. The cost of the cars that we do build is going to go up. And that's just that. As Trudeau said, the cost of food is going to go up. Just the cost of almost everything. And the Canada and Mexico are our two biggest trading partners. And why Trump decided to start a war with them, I haven't heard him explain it. I haven't heard anybody else explain it. With any luck, he will declare victory and back away from this in whatever it is, in days, maybe it'll take weeks. But he's got a bug up his butt about Canada and Mexico, with whom he signed trade agreements during his first term that he said were the greatest trade agreements anyone had ever seen, and now he's breaking those agreements for no discernible reason whatsoever.
Well, not only is he breaking it, but it's as though he's this amnesia associated with that deal. He's now dumping on that deal, saying it's the worst deal ever. Whoever made it, should be ashamed of themselves. You made it.
Whoever made it, yeah.
But I mean, trying to figure out his reason for doing things can often be a fool's errand. I do think that he enjoys the flex of so far, beating up on countries that need us. That's what you saw with Zelensky. These smaller nations, the European nations even, who he knows that on some level we're dominant. And I think with Mexico and Canada, he sees again, when I say sees, I don't know that it's almost instinctive. It's muscle memory with him. He likes to go after those entities and leaders who he perceives as weaker than he is. I don't know if he sees it as a zero-sum game, such that if you can weaken them, he becomes stronger. His MAGA base does respond positively to it, Michael.
Well, I'm not sure that the MAGA base is going to be very happy with this. The MAGA base includes a lot of rank and file workers who are going to lose their jobs. They're going to be laid off. We've already seen that in the layoffs from federal agencies. And the MAGA base in poor, low-income regions thinks that he's going to save them. They're going to be disappointed, and it's going to become clear. I mean, we have seen from basically every Republican congressman who's held a town hall at home in the last week or two has gotten an earful and has learned to their disappointment that their audiences, who are mostly Republicans, don't believe a word they're saying. So, I sort of assume that these guys, leave their town halls and go home and say, what have I done?
Right.
What has Trump done? What is he doing to me? And I think these policies are not sustainable on a political or partisan basis.
So how do you game this out? Economically, how do you game it out? The market reacted suddenly, but then seems to have, mellowed, and now it's all sort of within kind of normal market daytime trading numbers?
Yeah, well, as I know, I've covered the stock market for, 30 years now, and I've seen these things come and go. I think the market was vulnerable to a downturn because it had hit an all-time record. Both, the Dow, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, were all sitting around at record levels. So a reversal was not was in the cards anyway, and reversals like this happen. Anything can trigger them. I think a lot of what we've seen in terms of the washout on the markets is, to a certain extent, the AI bubble deflating. And we've seen that, with every announcement of earnings by an AI-related company. They're all sort of disappointing, and the market's reacting. So it's a little hard to know right now how much the tariff announcements have to do with this, although they react, within moments to Trump's announcements, but then they settle down. So we'll see. The markets were at all-time highs. A downturn or a correction was in the cards, and we're seeing that. So I'm not sure. We don't know where this economy is going. Trump may get religion sooner or later, maybe sooner rather than later, and back off from some of this. As I said, he has a habit of declaring victory and then walking away.
Sure.
So, I don't expect these tariffs to last through his term. That's for sure.
The other stuff that he's doing economically, and I was invoking your name because I remembered your columns and your appearances during which you referred to a lot of the stuff that had been in the columns along the when it came to crypto. And I know you're not a fan, and I know you've been quite full-throated in the way you've decried the fraud of crypto and those things adjacent to crypto. Well, now, Michael, we are a crypto nation, and I invoked your name because now taxpayer dollars are being used to acquire a bunch of crypto. A crypto reserve is what it's being called, which is lunacy to me, an absolute craziness. I mean, a reserve of what? It continues to be this illusory thing. It's not anything that you can buy anything with yet. I mean, it's in very few instances you can use Bitcoin, I guess, to buy things, but it's going to be across the board. It's not just Bitcoin. They're buying, Solano and all the other stuff. Anyway, give me a couple of seconds on that part of Trump's plan.
I don't know that that's happened yet. He's talked about it and he's announced plans to do it. I think spending money on this stuff would require congressional assent. And, there's a crypto caucus in Congress. Some of our, stupider senators and representatives are part of it. But it hasn't happened yet. And what we see is, in fact, the folly of crypto is that the prices of these things just, explode and then deflate at a moment's notice based on what Trump has to say. So we'll see what happens. It's certainly, a majestically stupid idea. It won't add to the national wealth. What we've seen in terms of Trump's and Melania's
meme coins
tokens is that they're basically devices to allow what looks to be bribes to be paid to the Trump family. These things are being bought by people who have an interest in getting policies that favor them out of the Trump White House, and when they buy up Trump coins, they're basically paying for access.
No, that's exactly right. It becomes like buying a floor of rooms in his hotel before you meet with him the next day, or when you have a hotel arrangement.
I think one of the giveaways is that the actual cryptocurrencies that Trump named as being part of this crypto reserve, from what I've read, are all in the ownership or owned by David Sachs, who is a acolyte of Elon Musk. So What's going on there? I don't know.
Well, the
I don't
last
know,
thing
and
I'll
I'm not sure I want to know, but
no, I would just say the one thing that crypto is great for is dark money. If you're looking to pay off a drug dealer, if you're looking to pay off any number of things are associated with the dark web, if you're looking for an untraceable way, it's weird because the um, blockchain is supposed to show you a chain of custody, yet the actual transfer of monies or of crypto can get somebody rich and you'll never know who that person is on either end. It's a remarkable thing. And that is what happened here. Um, Before the announcement, there was a huge purchase of essentially an option, I guess, on crypto, on certain currencies, a constellation of currencies. The announcement came out. That person made a fortune. We don't know who they are. I think they made 50x or something like that on their investment, and then they pulled their investment out. Now that same market has crashed. So we'll see. As you say, it sounds to me like you're saying, I think this might just be all talk. I mean, he's got Sachs in there. He has the mechanism, if you will, Michael, to actually follow through on it. But you just question whether or not it'll really happen.
yeah, I don't know. It hasn't happened yet,
Okay.
and there are steps that have to be taken before it can happen. So we'll see. But the bottom line with crypto is that no one has really made a use case for cryptocurrency. It doesn't do anything that traditional methods of finance and traditional investment assets can do. As you said, and you are right, it is useful for it. It can fund criminal activity. So, and the people who profit from crypto, it's a very small cadre. Most people, most small investors get taken to the woodshed sooner or later if they buy into this stuff.
So we'll put that to the side again. And now just give me, before I want to talk about your book on California, give me a sense of um, and I feel like you're going to say, I don't know what the policy is, but the sort of forthcoming policies of the Trump administration, the dismantling of government, the presence of Musk. Um, how do these things affect that which you watch so closely, which is the American economy and American business?
Yeah, well, the general theme of what's going on there in Washington is that Trump and Musk, and in fact the Republican Party more generally, they don't have any interest in governing. So everything they do basically treats government as something to be drained and attacked and just taken away. And that's the one theme in everything that's been going on. Firing people by the thousands without really taking even a moment to think about what do these people do for us? What's their job? What needs to be saved, and what can really be um, uh, removed? They don't do any of that. They just say, "Well, we're going to eliminate this office. We're not going to explain why, except we're going to say, well, it's Doge or it's DEI or some stupid assertion, some meme. So we're going to do that." And then on several occasions, they've woken up the next morning and said, "Oh my God, we just fired everybody who's responsible for the safety of our nuclear arsenal. So we need to get them back." And by then, they've taken away their government emails, so they don't even know where to find them to invite them back. This has gone on now over and over again. And the fury that we're hearing at these Republican town halls really boils down to people, even those, Republican voters who say, yeah, there's too much government. There are too many people in government. We can really pare it down. They're infuriated at the sheer sloppiness and the arbitrariness of these firings and layoffs and threats. And you can hear that in their voices. The Republicans say, well, the Democrats have stocked these town halls, which is nonsense. I mean, these are town halls being held in congressional districts that went 80% for Trump in the last election. They're not Democrats. They're people who thought they were going to be advantaged. They were going to get what they needed from the Trump administration. And all of a sudden they discovered that they're getting just the opposite. So, but as I said, these are, Trump doesn't care one bit about governing, or he would do everything completely opposite from what he's doing.
Sure, sure. Vilma says America is becoming a nation of oligarchs, scammers, criminals, and bullies, at least as seen by the world. I mean, sadly, that does seem to track.
It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, exactly. And so the prospects is, I mean, again, I hate to come back to I guess the market is just one indicator. But I'm seeing in the chat that, well, the market's down 3% from when he took office. He took office just 5 weeks ago. And you said, Michael, it's been prime for a correction. If the market is a portion of the health of America, not necessarily the only thing you look at, how do you see market trends? You think it's going to continue to trend down? And what is a big number? Is 3% a big number? Is 5% a big number? Is 10%? What market corrections actually make us hit the red alert button?
Well, 10% pullback is a correction, at least by usual theorizing. 10% is a correction. 20% would be a bear market. We're not there yet. A 3 to 5% pullback, it happens. It can happen within a period of weeks. I try not to prognosticate.
Okay.
On the market. I own index funds.
Sure.
And I let the market sort of take care of itself. But I'm old enough that I've been moving into bonds and fixed income because
right.
That's what those who have reached a certain age,
yes, of course,
are counseled to do, and I've been doing that in my portfolio. But we are seeing indications from elsewhere. We're seeing manufacturing indexes showing real weakness, even though Trump said, "I'm the manufacturing president," or "I'm going to bring it back." We're seeing CEOs expressing increasing concerns about the course of the economy. We're seeing retail corporations talking about how the prospects for further growth, at least in the near term, are fading. And we're seeing projections of gross domestic product in the quarter we are in now turning negative. We came into this year with a projection that the economy would grow by about 2.9% on an annualized basis in this first quarter. Now it's turning red, or it's turning negative by 1% or more. And that's once again the projection, and it's a dynamic. We have to wait and see how things develop, but it doesn't look like a very strong economy going forward right now. And Trump is going to take the blame for that the longer it happens.
Well, on your next visit, we'll talk about his attempt to take over the Federal Reserve, because by then he'll really have his clutches on it. Right now, it's just something that's talked about in the background. I want to take our remaining time and ask you about your book. Your book is getting rave reviews. I know you were working on it for a really long time, and I guess the reviews reflect that. Hiltzik makes a compelling case that California is the heartbeat of our nation. That's from Pulitzer Prize winner Michael Hiltzik, A Definitive New History of California, from the Spanish conquistadors to the gold rush to the state's meteoric rise as a tech powerhouse and bulwark of progressivism and its indelible mark on the United States and the world. And it goes on. I mean, this book really covers a lot of territory. Golden State, The Making of California, from Michael Hiltzik. Give us a sense of it.
Yeah, well, there are a couple of threads that run through the book that my editors at Harper were very good at making sure that I kept to them. One is that, red states, a lot of states outside California love to run against California. They love to portray it as the other, as not really a part of America. But one point I make is that, look, right now, more than 1 out of every 8 Americans lives in California. So this state really is America. And we can see that. We can see that things happen here that end up becoming trends throughout the country. And I write that if you want to understand America, you have to understand California. And if you understand California, you learn a lot about America. Now, that being said, I started this book during the first Trump administration, and the pitch I made to my publishers, who were enthusiastic about it, was that we're going to talk about all the things that California has taught the world and the rest of the country. And then as I got into it, what I discovered was that a lot of what California has taught the world and the country are things that we're not so sure we're happy that the rest of the world and the country knows. Because right now, California is a resistant state. It's a progressive state and a liberal state, but that hasn't always been the case. It hasn't been that long since the era of Ronald Reagan. California gave us Reagan and Richard Nixon. There are periods in the state's history going all the way back to the Spanish conquistadors that involved genocide against native tribes, that the anti-Chinese movement that originated here in California in the 1870s and 1880s percolated outside our borders and ended up with the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which remained on the books of the U.S. Federal government until 1943. In the early 1900s, there was an anti-Japanese movement here in California, and both of these movements were economic-based. Chinese, Japanese residents come into the country. The Chinese came in to help build the railroad. The Japanese came in to do farming, and they started competing with whites. So this animosity grew up, and for the Japanese, it culminated in the incarceration of 1942. 120,000 Californians of Japanese descent, including 60,000 Japanese American citizens, were relocated from their homes. They lost their homes, their businesses, their livelihoods. And I'm often asked, well, what's the most surprising thing you discovered in doing your research? And I have to say, it's an easy question, because that was the identity of the California politician who really helped orchestrate the Japanese relocations and incarcerations. He was the California Attorney General at the time. He would be a governor, a two-term governor afterwards, and his name was Earl Warren.
Wow.
So we think of Earl Warren as a quintessential Supreme Court liberal. This is the dark shade of his past. He never apologized for it. He never explained it until he wrote in his memoirs, which were published posthumously, that he regretted it. So, so California has a checkered history, but
sure,
a fascinating history from the beginning of the European incursion right up to today.
In our last minute or two, when you see California assailed the way it is now, as you suggest, by the red states, by Trump, by the rest of the nation, California, they can't make anything work, et cetera, as sort of Libville. What is the future of California under a federal government that kind of has taken them on oppositionally the way this government has?
Well, one of the points that I make in the book and that I've made in the talks I've given about the book is that Californians really have this image of themselves as basically independent. And that's really supported by many episodes of our history. But it can be hard for California to remain independent because we're integrated with the national economy. We're integrated with the federal government. If Trump and the Republicans want to basically make abortion nationally illegal, if they want to block the distribution of the abortion drug mifepristone, there may not be much that California can do, at least at first, without litigation. even though abortion rights were enshrined in the California Constitution. So we'll see. But look, in the first Trump administration, California filed or participated in 122 lawsuits to protect California values. Already there are 70 lawsuits, and that's just in this month and a half of the Trump administration. California will be participating in most of those. And so far, Trump has lost at the trial level in most of that litigation. And he's not going to be able to turn the tide. What he's doing is just illegal.
We've just seen him close. This just happened, I think, 2 days ago. He closed the water reclamation office, the federal water reclamation office in California. That's a real problem. I mean, because they control dams and water releases that are critical to balancing this, vanishing natural resource. But I'm getting this question: how much federal funding does California count on when it comes to schools and everyday functions? Are we in trouble when it comes to Trump possibly cutting that funding?
Well, California gets funding for many services, including healthcare, education, what have you. Trump will try to block some of that funding, but anything he tries to do along those lines is clearly illegal, may be unconstitutional, and it will be fought. And at the very least, it will be delayed. And some of these cases, as I've written, take more than 4 years to make their way up to the Big Nine in D.C. So they're going to be heard after Trump is gone, and it's not going to be as easy for him to do these things as he likes. And I've made the point: you want to see what Trump does rather than just listen to his blathering. We're not going to get Greenland. We're not going to make Canada the 51st state. We're not going to get the Panama Canal back. But he can do a lot of damage just by trying in the meantime.
Well, we will have a link to your book, Michael Hiltzik. Put it up there again, Tony. The world can see it. Golden State, The Making of California, from Pulitzer Prize winner Michael Hiltzik, who, I'll remind you, went to my university, which makes me Pulitzer Prize adjacent, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Now I thought you went to my university.
I think that's probably closer to the truth. Love having you in. Congratulations on the book, and appreciate your takes always. All the best, Michael Hiltzik.
Happy to be here anytime.
All right, my friend. Michael Hiltzik, everyone.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.